So this is a reminder that you guys have a quiz tomorrow on day 1 and 2. So up to all kind of factoring. Okay, so expanding and factoring. So today we're gonna go over a review on factoring, which we call the factoring multiple method. So we'll have a mix of factoring, not only one kind of factoring, but a mix of it. Okay? On the test tomorrow or on the quiz tomorrow, you will not have the mixed factoring. Okay, it will just be one of the 3 kinds that we learn, but I mean this will be on the test for sure. Okay? So whenever you're factoring 3 different ways, right? We learned common factoring first. So we learned common factoring, and we learned difference of squares, can I just no. We learned difference of squares, and we learned sum and product. You remember these 3 terms? Okay? Always, the first question you're going to ask yourself, do I have a common factor? This is always your first step. If you do, you common factor first, then you can pick one of the 2 methods. If you don't have a common factor, then you skip it. Then you ask yourself, is it difference of squares or sum of product? Okay? So your first step, common factor. If you have a common factor, then you do that first. Then you have one of these 2 options. It can't be both. It has to be one or the other. Okay? Remember, with difference of squares, you have to have 2 terms with, it should be 2 squared terms with a negative in between. Remember that? Difference of squares? So it has to look like this. A squared minus b squared, right? And I can factor it as a plus b, a minus b, right? Where you square root the first, square root the second, and one is minus, the other one's positive. For the sum and product, you must have 3 terms. And you're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to c and add to b. Okay? So here, this is what you're looking at. Do I have 2 terms or 3 terms? After you do your common factor. So let's look at, so I have 3x squared plus 21x plus 36, and the example, the question is factor. So if you're asked to factor this, what's the first thing you always have to think about? Do I have a common factor? What is it? What's your common factor? 3. 3. I can divide this by 3, I can divide this by 3, I can divide this by 3. I don't have x's in all of them, right? So 3 is my common factor. So I can factor out a 3. If I divide this by 3, I'm going to skip this step, okay? If I divide each one by 3, what do I have left? So what do I have left here? X squared. What's 21x divided by 3? 7 what? X. What's 36 divided by 3? 12. Okay? Took the greatest common factor out, and I have my leftover. Now this is where you're not done. Okay? You're going to look at your leftover, and you're going to see 2 terms or 3 terms for your leftover? 2 terms or 3 terms? 3 terms. So it's a trinomial, right? So I'm looking at the sum and product because it's a trinomial. Okay? I'm looking for 2 numbers that multiply to what and add to what?
That multiply to 12 and add to 7.
Yes. So I'm looking for numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 7. What multiplies to 12?
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Does it add to 7?
Yes.
That's add to 7, right? So I found my answer, but let's say you did not find your answer right away. What else multiplies to 12? 6 and 2.
Yep.
12 and 1. 6 and 2 add to 8. 12 and 1 add to 13. So your answer is 3 and 4 because that's what adds to 7. Okay? So that means if I'm going to write my final answer here, GCF has to stay there. So 3 has to stay there. Otherwise, you're changing your equality. Then you're going to open 2 brackets. And that's going to be x plus 3, x plus 4. Okay? 3 and 4 come from the multiples that I found that add to 7 and multiply to 12. Are we okay with this? Okay, so let's look at the second one. What's the first thing I want to do? What do I have to do first?
Find a common factor.
Do I have a common factor? Is there any number or any letter that I can divide both terms by? 2? Yes? Can I divide 50 by 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So my greatest common factor is 2. What happens if I divide both by 2? What do I get? So 2x squared divided by 2 is? X squared minus 50 divided by 2 is? 25. Okay? Now, look at your leftover. What's your leftover? It's 2 terms, right? Your leftovers are 2 terms, so it's a binomial. So your option is for binomial, you're going to have to look if it's difference of squares, okay? Difference of squares, that means you have to have square terms with a minus between them. Do I have that?
Yeah.
Yes, x is a square term, it has an even exponent. Number 25, it's a square root of, it's 5, right? So if I square root 25, that gives me 5. It's a square number. So, how do I factor this? What do I put in the first bracket? So one is a minus, the other one is a plus, okay? What's the square root of x squared? X, I put it in first position. What's the square root of 25? Put it in second position. And it's factored, it's done. Yes?
Does it matter like the way that you write it?
No, if you write plus first and minus in the second one, it doesn't matter, it's the same thing. Are we okay with this, guys? The more practice you get with the factoring, the better you get at it. Trust me. Okay, how about the third one? What's the first question you always have to ask yourself? Do I have a common factor? Can I divide each term by the same number or letter? What is it? 4. I can divide by 4, right? So if I divide by 4, that's my greatest common factor. 4, 4, 4. So what do I have left? X squared.
X squared minus 2x minus 15.
12.
And
No?
12.
No, it won't be 12. It should be 15. You're right. Okay? Good. So, leftovers, binomial or trinomial? Trinomial, so I have to follow which method? Sum and product. Okay? So I'm looking for two numbers and multiply to what and add to what?
Multiply to
Negative 15. Add to negative 2. Good. So get your green sheet out. What multiplies if B is negative and C is negative? They're both negative.
Large is negative and small is positive.
That's right. So give me numbers that multiply to 15.
3 times 5.
3 and 5, so the largest has to be negative. So 3 and negative 5. And another one? It's always the 1.
1 and 15.
Yes. Do not forget that, because a lot of time on the test, when they forget the 1, and this would be the answer. I can't find one, but yes, you can. Yes, it's the 1. All right. So if you add 3 and negative 5, what does that give you? Negative 2. Is that the answer? Is that what I'm looking for?
Yes.
Good. So that's what I'm looking for. So that's my answer. I don't even have to try the other one. So that gives me x plus 3, x minus 5, and that is my factored form.
No, because like when you're trying to divide, it's given 0.5, 0.5.
Oh, okay, so you want it to. Are we good with that, guys? We get it a little bit more than yesterday? A little bit? Okay, let's try the word problem, and then I'll, if you guys have any questions from the homework, we'll pick that up, and then I'll move on to the next lesson. Okay? So, here is a question that doesn't have a lot of numbers, but it has more letters. Okay? So the surface area of a cylinder is given by the formula surface area equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. You guys know what pi stands for?
3.1.
That's right. So pi is actually a number, right? On the calculator you have the pi button. It's a 3.1415. It's an infinite number of decimals. They're asking you to factor. Okay? So they're asking you to factor the expression. So if I have this expression right here, which is SA, this should not say expression, it should say the formula. So if you have SA equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h, and you need to factor, what's the first thing you want to think about? Common factor. Do I have a common factor? What is it? I have 2. Anything else?
And
Pi and r. You see that 2 pi and r are in each term, are in both terms. So that means my common factor is 2 pi r. Okay? So what happened when I divide this by 2 pi r and when I divide this by 2 pi r? What do I have left? So the 2 and the 2 cancel, the pi and the pi cancel. How about r squared over r? What do I have left? r squared divided by r. What do you have left?
Square.
Square.
What?
R! Because remember, r squared is r times r, right? So this and this cancel, so you have r left, no? Okay, now, if I cancel this out, 2 and 2 cancel, pi and pi cancel, r and r cancel, so what do you have left? H. So, it's 2 pi r multiplied by r plus h. Okay, so the factored form is, of the surface area, is 2 pi r multiplied by r plus h. Do you see that? So now they give you values for the radius and the height, and they tell you that the cylinder has a radius of 3 centimeter and a height of 10 centimeter. Use both the original expression, which is this, that SA equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h, and the factored expression, which we just got, to find the surface area of the cylinder to the nearest square centimeter. Okay? So they want you to use both formulas, plug in the information. So what do I plug in for R? 3. So I'm going to write 2 pi times 3 squared plus 2 pi. What's R again?
3.
What's H?
10.
Okay? So you see what I did? I took my first formula, which is the one that they've given me, and I replaced R with its value, H with its value. Yes or no? What I'm doing is I'm substituting. They give me radius is 3, height is 10. Right? And I'm removing the radius and I'm putting 3 instead of it. And same with this radius, and with the height is 10. Does that make sense now? Okay. So, if I don't have a calculator right now, and I'm going to try to show you how would I do it without a calculator. So to do this, what does BEDMAS tell you you have to do first? The brackets, I don't have anything inside my bracket, so I'm going to have to skip that bracket part. What do I do on this side? Exponent. So it's going to be 2 pi times 9, no?
Yes.
Okay. Then on this side, what do I have to do? So 2 pi times 3 times 10. What do you do? Multiplication. So you're going to multiply the 3 by the 10. So that's 2 pi times 30. Okay? I'm trying to do it without a calculator. Okay? Now, 2 pi times 9. That's 18 pi, no? Because 2 times 9 is 18. Then that's 60 pi. Okay? I don't have a calculator. Again, I'm just reminding you I don't have a calculator, so I don't want to use the value of pi. I'm going to leave it as pi. What's 18 pi plus 60 pi? 78 pi. Right? Let's leave it as 78 pi. Okay? Because if you want, grab a calculator, do 78 times pi, and then that will give you the answer. But let's just keep it like this for now. Now, I showed you step by step how I got to my answer. Now let's do the same thing, but with the second formula, with the formula that we factored. So I have SA equals 2 pi. Instead of R, I'm going to replace it with 3. And then I have 3 plus 10. Okay? So, BEDMAS says I have to do inside my bracket first, so that's 2 pi times 3 times 13. Right? Because 10 plus 3 is 13. Now, if I do 13 times 3, that's 39. Times 2 is 39 times 2 is 78, no? 2 times 8 is 18. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1, that's 78. So I have 78 pi. I'm done. So all what I had to do here is inside the bracket and then do multiplication. So if you're looking at this, which one is easier? The second one. It has less operation to deal with.
But how come you didn't put the square for that side?
Because I don't have a square anymore, right? It's been factored out. This is my formula that I'm looking at. Oops. I'm looking at this formula, which doesn't have a square anymore.
Okay.
Okay? It's a factor. Right? It's less operation, less multiplication, less everything. Right? So that's why the factored form is easier, right? The factored form is easier. There's less operations to deal with.